as much as it was an honor to be selected and to be deemed as one of the most beautiful women in all of the Persian Empire, it was actually also, in a way, kind of like a death sentence.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Out of the Shallows.
G'day, guys.
We are going to continue reading today, but before we do, let me just introduce myself. My name is Alec, and this is my beautiful wife, Maddie. And I just want to remind you guys just something about us, and that is that we are not ordained ministers. That's right, which
I
means...
was wondering where you were going with that.
Again, that just means simply that we cannot marry you. No, and it also means that we are not pastors. And if there is anything that we're ever sharing about within this that maybe you don't fully understand, you don't agree with, we don't want you...
have questions about.
More questions about, please go to your local pastor. Please go to somebody who you trust and actually talk this through with them, because again, we are not trying to give pastoral advice with this. We are literally just trying to have fun reading through these books. But with that being said, I'm very excited to jump into chapter 2 here. So let's go right ahead and let's jump into chapter 2. But before we do, I'm going to give a quick little recap of what happened last week.
Crazy God King Xerxes.
That's right, King Xerxes. So Maddie just mentioned King Xerxes. So remember, we have a man who is ready to go out and battle the Greeks. So he's going out, he's going to battle the Greeks, and he has this massive war campaign, and it's a long campaign that lasts 187 days total.
I think 180.
180 days, and then 187 with
the extra 7 days of
feasting. Of course. I did.
Wow. Okay.
I did math in college. I did math.
Mr. Engineer.
Yes, that's right. So yeah, it's this big campaign, and he really wants to make sure that he's rallying everyone together, that he's going to be able to take over Greece, that this is a big moment in history. He's excited to go try to take them out, and his wife says no to one of his requests. He asks his wife to come before him, and she says no.
Through the eunuchs as well. We can't forget the eunuchs.
Through the eunuchs, yeah. He sends these eunuchs.
All the proper ways.
It was so proper. It was very, very proper of him. But anyways, it throws him into a fitting rage, and he decides, you know what, I'm going to banish Queen Vashti, and she's no longer queen, and I need a new queen. So that's basically where we ended chapter 1. So chapter 2, Maddie, why don't you go right ahead and start reading in chapter 2 here?
And just a reminder, guys, we are reading from the New Living Translation. So if you want to follow along with us, we are in the NLT. And so chapter 2, verse 1. But after Xerxes' anger had subsided, he began thinking about Vashti and what she had done and the decree he had made.
Actually, if I can just stop you right there.
Yeah.
Going back to the war, what's interesting here is this is actually time later. So don't think of this as like this is the very next day. This is actually time later. So time has passed between the last chapter and this chapter. And literally, he has fought the Greeks, and he has lost. So the Spartans, the battle of Thermopylae happened. The battle with the 300 Spartans happened, and he lost.
Well, what we and how we know that time has passed here as well is because in the first chapter we read that it's in the 3rd year of his reign, and we actually read that this second chapter takes place in the 7th year of his reign. And
Correct.
So I don't think the New Living Translation lists that, but other translations like the NKJV definitely do. And so. Yeah, so this is in the 7th year of his reign. Okay, that's a great point. Okay, so verse 2. So his personal attendants suggested, let us search the empire to find beautiful young virgins for the king. Let the king appoint agents in each province to bring these beautiful young women into the royal harem at the fortress of Susa. Hegai, which I hope I said that right, the king's eunuch in charge of the harem will see that they are all given beauty treatments. After that, the young women or the young woman who most pleases the king will be made queen instead of Vashti. This advice was very appealing to the king, so he put the plan into effect.
Okay, all right. So he loves it. It's time to find a new queen.
Just wanted to quickly mention, so the fortress of Susa, where is this all happening? So we've just read that, one, there was a banquet in Susa earlier on in chapter 1, but now in chapter 2, we're back in Susa.
Yeah.
And so what is this fortress all about? And
paint the picture. What does Susa look like? What exactly is it? Like, where is it?
They actually found it.
Oh, okay.
So some French excavators actually found this like extensive remains of the palace in Susa. It wasn't like a little brick here and a little inscription here. Like they found extensive remains of the palace of Susa. And it was actually built by King Xerxes' dad, Darius I, in 490 BC, which is about 20 years before this story is happening. So it's, I guess, kind of relatively new palace, fortress, but this one was actually the most beautiful of all the palaces, of all the fortresses, and it was decorated with these colored tiles that showed different animals and floral patterns, and even some of King Xerxes' bodyguard, the immortals, were literally drawn into the tiles.
Oh, wow.
And so more than any of the Persian palaces, this was one of the most beautiful, and it was decorated with gold. It was decorated with cedar timbers, with precious stones, silver, ebony, from all these different conquered nations. So King Xerxes, we assume he's lost this war with the Greeks.
Killed the immortals, as King Leonidas would say. We put the name to the test.
Wait, what?
Yeah, but,
Maybe don't quote us on any of that.
It's a line from 300.
Immortals. We'll put their name to the test.
It's a powerful moment. Okay, I'm sorry, go on.
So he's now gone and resided in this fortress after this crushing defeat, only to look at all the beautiful things that were taken from conquered nations. So I bet he's just trying to build up his ego a little bit, and he realized, where's my wife? Where's my wife at?
Wow.
We need a wife.
Okay, so we're going to continue reading here, and now we're going to actually introduce a brand new character in the story who's a very important character. Actually, we're going to kind of read about two new characters. So let me go right ahead and read along here. At that time, there was a Jewish man in the fortress of Susa whose name was Mordecai, son of Jair. He was from the tribe of Benjamin and was a descendant of Kish and Shimei. His family had been among those who King Jehoiakim of Judah had been exiled from Jerusalem to Babylon by King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, a really quick background for you guys. King Nebuchadnezzar, he's actually the king that is in Daniel chapter 1. He's the king that he had a dream, and he asked everyone to interpret it without him actually even sharing the dream. And the first person who could actually interpret the dream, which was Daniel. So if you guys know a little bit about Daniel, that's where this king is from. This man had a very beautiful and lovely young cousin named Hadassah, who was also called Esther. When her father and mother died, Mordecai adopted her into his family and raised her as his own daughter.
Okay, I have to jump in really quick here because I love that you mentioned Babylonia.
Well, I actually didn't mention it. The Bible mentioned it, but
my gosh.
So, but go on.
Well, there is this Babylonian god, and the Babylonian god's name is Marduk. And so a very popular name back in this ancient Persian society was Mordecai, named after this Babylonian god Marduk.
Okay.
You're making this so weird.
I'm sorry. It's a solid name. Go on.
Mordecai. They believe that Mordecai is probably the Hebrew equivalent of this common name, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then if you want to have a look at Esther, Esther's name is actually in the Hebrew we see here that's Hadassah. So where did they get Esther from? And so there was actually another god who was, I think it was like Ishtar or something like that. And so they believe that Esther was named after this god. And the meaning of her name is literally star. And so Esther meant star.
Wow.
And so it is very interesting. But you can see straight away here that there is this beautiful dynamic between Mordecai and Esther, like Mordecai taking Esther in as her, as his own, and adopting her. And I mean, we're going to see that play out a little bit, but we can see straight away that like Mordecai is kind of like a father figure to Esther.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to continue reading?
Oh yeah, I'll jump
please.
in. Okay. Verse 8. As a result of the king's decree, Esther, along with many other young women, was brought in the king's harem at the fortress of Susa and placed in Haggai's care. So Esther was among those very, very beautiful women. And so Haggai was very impressed with Esther and treated her kindly. He quickly ordered a special menu for her and provided her with beauty treatments. He also assigned her 7 maids, specially chosen from the king's palace, and he moved her and her maids into the best place in the harem.
Okay, I think maybe we should pause here and actually explain something really quick. That is kind of interesting. Like, even though Esther was taken into the palace, and this may seem like an amazing thing, from what I understand, actually, apparently there's even a belief, now this is just a theory, that even she was being hidden for years. That actually, that like for months, like they even tried to even hide Esther, because it wasn't really like the best thing to be chosen, even though it may seem like it was an honor. And I know that you even done some research on this, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but about just how they even chose these women, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get more into that a little bit later because it'll explain it more.
Well, then that's just a tease.
That's just a tease.
You know what? There you go, a tease, and then go right ahead. You can continue reading.
No, but it is an important note that when these women were being brought into the harem, the commentators that have like studied this extensively and the rest of it, they actually believe that there was about anywhere from 400 girls to 1,400 girls.
Wow.
Which I know that's a big jump, but I think it's generally accepted there was about 400 girls, although one or two commentators say there's 1,400. And so all to say, she's part of a big group. There's a lot of women that have been brought in from all over the Persian Empire. So, okay, jumping back into verse 10. Esther had not told anyone of her nationality and family background because Mordecai had directed her not to do so. Every day, Mordecai would take a walk near the courtyard of the harem to find out about Esther and what was happening to her. Before each young woman was taken to the king's bed, she was given the prescribed 12 months of beauty treatments, 6 months with oil of myrrh, followed by 6 months with special perfumes and ointments. When it was time for her to go to the king's palace, she was given her choice of whatever clothing or jewelry she wanted to take from the harem. That evening, she was taken to the king's private rooms, and the next morning, she was brought to the second harem, where the king's wives lived. There should be under the care of Shashgaz. I think that's how you say it, Shashgaz, the king's eunuch in charge of the concubines. She would never go to the king again unless he had especially enjoyed her and requested her by name. And I think that's what you were alluding to a little bit earlier, that this wasn't exactly like, as much as it was an honor to be selected and to be deemed as one of the most beautiful women in all of the Persian Empire. It was actually also, in a way, kind of like a death sentence a little bit.
A death sentence, or
well, you were confined to perpetual widowhood.
Yeah, so basically like a widow sentence then.
Yeah. So if you didn't get chosen, if you didn't get selected, you would be moved into the second harem. And unless the king specifically asked for you, that was your life. Like, yes, you'd be getting food, you'd be getting fed, but you would not be getting love or affection. You would not have children.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, it kind of ended there for you.
Yeah, you would have no family lineage, like nothing to really pass on.
Yeah, and you're also removed from your family.
Yeah.
So now you're living in the king's harem. You've actually been removed from the family. And I think you found out some interesting things as well about if a king came in and conquered.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
King Xerxes.
So yeah, basically, yeah. So I guess you are correct about the death sentence, because a lot of time the harem wasn't really treated as like a noble thing. And so people, they like, whenever they were conquered, they weren't treated like well. Like a lot of times the king's like concubines and harems, they would kind of be like either killed or just like discarded of like really quickly. And so it really wasn't like a good thing just to be a concubine of the king. In a lot of cases, there were some kings that were good, and maybe it was a better thing, but in this scenario, no, it normally wasn't considered to be the best thing to be a part of a harem. So,
wow, women were just so disposable back then.
These women, they kind of were, yeah. So
Crazy.
It's very sad.
Yeah, but the beauty treatments that she was going through, I mean, the 12 months of beauty treatments, 6 months with oil of myrrh, followed by 6 months with special perfumes and ointments. Beauty treatments in the actual Hebrew means to polish or to rub or to scrape. So basically these women were being rubbed, which I guess maybe it's like exfoliation or massages with all of these like oils and
They needed some serious pedicures to scrape those feet, maybe. I don't know. Like,
we don't know what ancient Persia look like.
I don't know. But yeah. So go on, please.
No. I think we can jump back into verse 15.
Oh, sure. Okay, great. Esther was the daughter of Abihail, who was Mordecai's uncle. Mordecai had adopted his younger cousin, Esther. When it was Esther's turn to go to the king, she accepted the advice of Haggai, the eunuch in charge of the harem. She asked for nothing except what he suggested, and she was admired by everyone who saw her.
Smart woman.
Yeah, no. It does seem like she's trying to use wisdom in this situation. She's kind of like trying to make the best of it. Anyways, Esther was taken to the King Xerxes at the royal palace in early winter of the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther more than any other young woman. He was so delighted with her that he set the royal crown on her head and declared her queen instead of Vashti. To celebrate the occasion, he gave a great banquet in Esther's honor for all his nobles and officials, declaring a public holiday for the providences and giving generous gifts to everyone.
Let's go.
Wow.
Let's go.
So boom, homegirl becomes queen. She made it through. She followed the advice of the eunuchs. And yeah, but actually,
it's really not like The Bachelor. Like when I read this the first time, I was like, oh, this is kind of like The Bachelor.
Yeah.
As much as it is, actually, it really just is. It's like a prehistoric version of The Bachelor, except there was no second chances afterwards. Like you were literally gone.
Oh, yeah.
To perpetual widowhood.
I didn't know The Bachelor had second chances. I don't
Well, at least you can find love elsewhere. You can leave the show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gotcha. Yes. But anyways, what's interesting here to me that I'm actually just now picking up on? It's pretty interesting to me how Esther's listening to the eunuchs. Esther's honoring the eunuchs. Esther's honoring Mordecai. Esther is working with Mordecai. They're both communicating. It's almost like this in chapter 2, this really quick switch of like you have somebody who was not listening to eunuchs, who was not honoring things and was doing her own thing, Queen Vashti. And now you see a like healthier version of man and women working together. This amazing like father-daughter type dynamic. And I don't know. It's just quickly like a quick reverse and more of a healthier way of actually going about and honoring people. Very interesting. I just wanted to point that out.
No, and I mean, like she made it through all the way to the end.
Yeah.
I can't help but think this is kind of like The Bachelor, and she made it. She was the one who got the rose. She's the one who got the ring, and so let's go Queen Esther. Let's go Queen Esther. But I do think it's interesting because you got to remember this book was actually written for a Jewish audience. And so to the original audience, when they heard that, wow, a Jewish woman is now like being put into a place of influence. Normally when a Jewish person, whether male or female, were put into a prominent area of influence, it was because there was going to be a need. And so, I mean, if we look back all the way into Genesis and we read about Joseph, the son that was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, ended up in Pharaoh's courts and the rest of it, and went to jail because he was falsely accused, went to prison, and then he was actually called upon and summoned by the king Pharaoh to interpret the dream. We read that he was actually brought into that place of influence because he would literally provide food for his brothers, the one that sold him into slavery.
Yeah.
He would provide them food to sustain them, to keep them alive, and they would become the 12 tribes of Israel, which is crazy. And then we read about Daniel, which I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, when he was brought into King Nebuchadnezzar and he was able to interpret the dream. It actually created a new status of acceptance for the Jews in Babylonia.
Yeah, and even Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as well. No, yeah, there's all these like moments where. So what you're trying to say is like whenever the Israelites, the Jewish people get excited of like, oh my gosh,
it's a foreshadowing. Like something's gonna happen.
What's about to happen? What's God gonna do? This is a great thing. But
it's definitely foreshadowing that there's maybe going to be a need, and Queen Esther's going to be having to step into that. And so, crazy. I think that is all that we have today for this.
Yes, actually,
chapter.
This is a perfect area just to go right ahead and wrap. And so, guys, we hope that this has just excited you. Like we hope that as you've heard this first and even second chapter, that you guys just got so excited that you guys are like, wow, I've never heard of that. I never knew that was actually a thing. Like, I found this so interesting, guys. We want to just bring so much life to these stories, just so much fun to these stories. And so, guys, if you have any feedback for us, please leave us some feedback. Like, we want to hear it. If you have any comments, any fun things that you want to suggest, just go right ahead, send it our way, leave it as a comment, leave it as a review, reach out to us over Instagram, whatever. But guys, we're so happy you guys are here. And if this is something we want to continue to watch, of course, you got to do the thing that like everyone knows.
Subscribe.
You have to like and subscribe, because otherwise, how are you ever going to find it again? How are you going to know whenever the new stuff comes out? So make sure you like and subscribe. And guys, we appreciate the support so much with this brand new podcast. We're all, starting this off together. So again, we appreciate all the different listeners, and we'll see you next time here on
Out of the Shallows.